Oh, testing? Okay, good, good. Oh, sorry. Sounds good. Hi, everyone. We're gonna get started. If you could get back to your seat, get some food, and Jimmy is gonna play a little intro film for us. Thank you, Jimmy.
One of the oldest Chinatowns in the United States, Oakland Chinatown was settled in the 1850s, shortly after the gold rush. In 1906, the San Francisco earthquake and fire wrecked San Francisco Chinatown, causing thousands of San Francisco Chinese survivors to move to Oakland to rebuild their lives in the East Bay. Oakland Chinatown nowadays becomes the center of Asian cultures, arts and gourmet cuisine. At the heart of Oakland Chinatown you will find the office of the Diversity in Health Training Institute. The Diversity in Health Training Institute was established in 2011 to help immigrant and refugee communities navigate social, health, and mental health services.
Hi, I'm Alice Lightbicker, the founder of DHTI, Diversity in Health Training Institute. We're here to serve the marginalized communities of immigrants, refugees, and asylees. I started out 15 years ago to address the challenges of the nursing shortage in our county when I was serving on the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. Later on, I saw the need for an allied health workforce with the passage of the Affordable Care Act, and therefore DHTI was born. Helping people with professional background from their home countries to re-enter the healthcare field continues to inspire me. No talents should be wasted. As we continue to evolve over the past decade, our goal remains the same: provide opportunities for immigrants to thrive and live sustainable life for themselves and their families. Thank you for your support.
Hello, I'm David Sine. I'm the president of the board at the Diversity in Health Training Institute. Since we began in 2011, we've reached over 4,000 clients and impacted the lives of over 1,000 immigrants from 68 countries, representing 42 languages in our job training programs and our social and emotional support space. Our Healthcare Career Pathway Initiative has helped over 600 refugees and immigrants to pursue careers in healthcare. Under our Community Wellness Initiative, we offer educational services related to civic and public health needs. In 2020, we outreached 1,000 Alameda County residents to participate in the census surveys of 2020. We also distributed personal protective equipment and COVID-19 testing and vaccination information in various languages for targeted outreach efforts.
Hi everyone, my name is Sifane and I'm the Executive Director at Diversity in Health Training Institute. As the pioneer nonprofit organization that first recognized the need to address health disparities in the Alameda County since 2007, I am so proud of DHTI's initiatives to address health disparities in our community. Diversity in Health Training Institute strives toward a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable healthcare system in the United States. From training a diverse workforce to enter healthcare professions and improve the quality of care for racial and ethnic minority groups. Our mission is to promote the conditions in which immigrants can thrive. And we believe a major step towards health equity is through education for every person, policymakers, and healthcare professionals. Currently, DHTI operates in the Alameda County and services the Bay Area to assist immigrants, refugees, and asylee communities and connect them with social health and mental health resources and services to create healthier communities for all.
Hi, my name is Rabia Obeid. I'm the program manager of CIDRA. CIDRA is one of the 4 programs at Diversity in Health Training Institute. It is a community wellness program that focuses on wellness among the Middle Eastern and Northern African communities that are residing in Alameda County. Our goal at CIDRA is to promote social and psychological wellness and healing. We do that by providing preventional counseling, psychoeducation, connections to resources, outreach, and educational activities. Thank you.
My name is Shirin Normanesh. People usually call me Shirin. And I am the program manager of AllyNetwork, DHTI Diversity in Health Training Institute. So AllyNetwork, which we can be found on allynetwork.org, is a website app that we have developed to connect the culturally competent mental health providers with the immigrant, asylee, and refugees of Alameda County. And of course, we go beyond, and it's open to everyone who wants to use the services. We are trying to connect the culturally competent, lingually competent mental health providers with the newcomers. We understand that immigrants, refugees, and asylees go through a lot when they're immigrating, and not only prior to their migration process, but going through that, especially the refugees and asylees, and they experience a lot of hardship. The newcomers usually have faced lots of trauma, and we are here to serve them and bring the mental health services that they need.
Hello everyone, my name is Sophia Wang. I'm the program manager for Health Career Pathway. So DHTI's Health Career Pathway initiatives acts as a workforce intermediary to address inequities in healthcare services and the shortage of healthcare staffing needs by training an immigrant population to re-enter or enter the healthcare workforce. Our dedicated healthcare coaches help immigrants navigate through community course offering, provide community resources, and support services.
Can y'all hear me? Did you think we'll be watching TV all day since you're here in person? I know, I get confused with, this hybrid environment that we're in. First off, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out here today to celebrate Pride Weekend and raise awareness on mental health. And as for the rest of you who are watching us online, live streaming, we also appreciate you for tuning in to learn more about Diversity in Health Training Institute. We are a nonprofit organization that promotes the conditions for immigrants, conditions such as economic and health conditions for immigrants, refugees, and asylees to thrive. We help immigrants re-enter healthcare jobs and promote healthy living conditions for underserved communities because we envision accessible and equitable healthcare that are provided by culturally competent and linguistically diverse healthcare providers. And DHTI would not be the pioneer in healthcare workforce development if it weren't for the whole community in Alameda County coming together to support our mission since 2007. This includes our collaborative work with community-based organizations, healthcare providers, county members, and community colleges coming together and helping the vulnerable immigrant community in obtaining sustainable jobs in healthcare, having access to free education, having a safe community to thrive in, and also having access to basic healthcare needs. Just like how a village come together to look after and protect the youth and senior citizens, you, as our sponsors, partners, and supporters, recognize the challenges that immigrants face upon resettling here in this new foreign country, speaking a different language, learning a foreign culture, and adjusting to the cold, windy, and sometimes foggy climate, like in Daly City, and finding menial jobs to make ends meet. And in some cases, Some of you also recognize the mental health challenges of those who are traumatized from fleeing political prosecution and escaping their war-torn countries to make a life here and start anew. So I really, appreciate you being here to learn more about DHTI and supporting the livelihood of immigrants. This is our very first symposium, and we needed everyone's support to make this day come true. So first off, I'd like to thank the CEO of Burma Superstar Restaurant Chain, Desmond Tan. If you're online, Desmond, thank you for giving us this space for us to use. And thank you to our devoted board members, past leaders, Alameda County Behavioral Health, for funding DHTI's programs and valuing the work that we do. And thank you to corporate donors like Navel Group, REI, and Corporate E-Waste Solutions for providing the much-needed electronics for our staff and vendors, and students, I'm sorry. In addition, I just wanted to also thank the volunteers that are here and staff, the whole DHTI staff here who worked tirelessly behind the scene to put together this content-rich agenda for you. And of course, last but not least, our knowledgeable panelists who will share with us on how we can support each other for an enriching community and make mental health conversations a norm. You all came together so that we do not fall short on making this symposium matter. And viewers at home, if you love what you see and find this educational, you too can support DHTI. Please like us, share this URL on your social media, and send us positive emojis. We have someone standing by to engage with you. And of course, everyone watching, please donate to our cause if you could, because our donation can go a long way to help our organization sustain year after year. And we also have graduate students from our Health Navigator program who is also graduating today, and we're lucky to share this moment with them as well. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure and an honor to introduce one of my dedicated and creative staff who put her heart and soul into building this AllyNetwork web application since the beginning. And so with her work, and of course, with the help of the social changery team, we are so appreciative of Lisa, who's also here, to help us build that web application and putting that vision behind the website that you now see. So thank you, Sharon and Lisa from the social changery for putting this application together that I know you'll talk about later. And without further ado, please welcome our AllyNetwork Program Manager, Sharon Normanish.
Thank you. Yes, I will open this. Oh, that way? Okay. Hello, everyone. Oh, yeah. No, that's okay. Good afternoon. I'm going to, while I'm doing this and finding my paper, it's really good to be here. Thank you. I have to say that it's kind of weird to see everyone after 2 years of pandemics, and I kind of have a problem. I don't know how to behave, seriously. But this is good to see everyone in person. So good afternoon and happy Pride. My name is Shirin Doch Nurmanesh. People usually call me Shirin. I'm the program manager of AllyNetwork. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge that we are having this event and are coming to you via the internet from the land that occupies the traditional Ramayatush Ohlone land. May we continue to cherish this land and protect it, holding it in our hearts. On this day, we also have to, I have to acknowledge what happened at the federal level today. It's a sad day. It affects all of us, men or women, doesn't matter what gender you identify with. And I hope that we don't wait for the November election, just get active, and because many people will have problem having care. So unfortunately, we were thrown back to mid-19th century, but it's going to be, we need to keep the hope up. So with that, I would like to welcome everyone to our first AllyNetwork Mental Health Symposium. It's an honor to have you, and welcome those who are joining us through the internet. AllyNetwork is a pilot project of Diversity and Training Institute with the help of the Social Changery and the Dev Collaborative, our friends back in New York. And it is generously funded by the Alameda County Behavioral Health Care Services. At this moment, I really like to send my greetings to Mary Skinner, the Innovation Coordinator, if she's watching us. Thank you for everything. So AllyNetwork, of course, you're going to hear about it more when my friend Lisa will join us here. But just briefly, it's a searchable database with about 400 mental health providers signed up on it. And it's for to connect the culturally competent mental health providers with the immigrant and asylee and refugees. More than 500,000 of refugees and asylees and immigrants in Alameda County. It is also for the, we hope that it also meets the needs of organizations and agencies that also help and serve the immigrant community as well, like ESL providers, colleges, community colleges, mental health practitioners, refugee resettlement agencies, wraparound service providers. Now, talking about, of course, Lisa is going to talk more about AllyNetwork. You're going to hear more about it. So, but talking about mental health of immigrants and refugees and asylees, we know that the occurrence of common mental health problems at the time of the arrival is less than the general population. But throughout the years, it increases over time. And at some point, the mental health the problems that people might have actually reaches to the general population. To a certain point, of course, the number, quality, and frequency of services the immigrant community receives has a significant impact on their mental health. We know that. Now, among the newcomers, refugees who have had severe exposure to violence often have higher rates of trauma-related disorders. They might suffer from post-traumatic disorder, stress disorder, chronic pains, somatic problems, somatic syndromes, and of course, many suffer from PTSD nightmares. We all have recognizing mental health problems and appropriating treating them among new immigrants and refugees in primary care. Of course, we know that poses a challenge most of the time because of the differences in language and the differences in culture and all that. So hopefully we can address that. Of course, we all have stressors in life, that's a given, but immigrants, refugees, and asylees experience stressors that are unique to them because of the unique experiences that they face. For example, many immigrants experience multiple instances of relocation, either within their own homeland because of maybe genocide or even natural disasters, they had to move around, or transitioning to another region, another country, and starting life anew. The transition is especially hard on refugees, making them the most disadvantaged of the relocating groups. Refugees' disadvantage and hindrances stem from their sudden and, in many cases, unexpected uprooting as the outcome of a sudden event, a major event that happens in their lives, such as war, genocide, political persecutions, religious persecutions, and all that, which makes their transition, their displacement, involuntary. It's an involuntary nature in their displacement process. Refugees are usually ill-prepared for what awaits them because it happens all of a sudden, and they are aware that this displacement has the potential to become permanent. That's another one that really affects one's mental health. It actually, as an immigrant, I can say that when you realize that this displacement is going to be forever, it's kind of heartbreaking, and it's hard to accept it sometimes. So living with that understanding, it affects one's mental health. Refugees relocate without even having enough proficiency in the language of the region they're going to, without having understanding of the new culture they're being exposed to. In most cases, they don't have the knowledge of the local beliefs, resources, and they don't even have the skills that they might be handy and become helpful for them in their new lives in the new region, new country. When we talk about mental health, we also need to consider that, unfortunately, newly settled and the displaced utilize care at a much lower rate than the common population, general population. Research shows that those from Latin America, from the continent of Asia, not only East Asia, the whole continent of Asia, where I also come from, and the continent of Africa, use mental health services, care services, even less than others. And men use it less, and also undocumented and uninsured. Now, in utilizing mental health, we know that there are barriers. I'm just going to go over some of the barriers that kind of forces people, immigrants, refugees, not to use the mental health services that are there. The barriers can be structural, like lack of having medical coverage, medical insurance. Language barriers also, we know that how important it can be and how it affects the mental health. One very important thing that we also, amongst ourselves at DHTI, we talk about with different groups, is the gender of the mental health service care provider that also affects people's decision to utilize mental health. That's one very big important issue. And also we know that immigrants, refugees, and asylees, like myself, I'm an immigrant, many of us here are immigrants, if we need help, if we need that support, we usually first tend to turn to our families, friends in the community, religious or spiritual leaders of our own community. Kind of like they are informal care services that we usually turn to get that. And we kind of postpone getting help from professional and formal mental health providers. But we do need that. I was reading a book, it's a really interesting book, I recommend it. It's a research book, Immigrant Women Tell Their Stories by Dr. Ronnie Berger. It's a very nice research and a good language. So she's saying that, of course, the research is about women, immigrants. She's saying that women, and I would say all immigrants, of course, attribute their ability to successfully cope with the challenges of immigration to social, familiar, personal, and circumstantial, and spiritual factors. So we also need to, when we are providing mental health care, we also need to keep that also in mind. And there are also cultural barriers in utilizing and using service care. Acculturation difficulties is one of them. Stigma around mental health is another one. We at DHTI, our program, AllyNetwork, and CIDRA also, we see that, the stigma that is around mental health and receiving mental health services. And also the beliefs and norms of the communities about mental illness and how they think about mental illness. So that's another barrier that kind of people don't ask for mental health services. So when we face linguistic and cultural differences, Of course, we know that they impede communication, mutual understanding. We see that every day in our work. There's going to be a misunderstanding between the provider and the client. So we needed the use of trained interpreters, culture brokers, and also culturally competent mental health providers. That's the whole purpose of AllyNetwork. We need to have those people to help us who are sensitive, culturally sensitive to the person's, the client's culture, and they can relate in many different levels with that person. It is with this understanding that AllyNetwork exists, to connect culturally competent mental health providers with immigrants and refugees. With respect to understanding of the role that the informal mental health providers, mental health care providers provide the immigrant community, I believe, and I think many would agree, that we need to endeavor to foster a collaboration between the informal care and the formal and professional mental health care providers, like Lisa, who is here, Satvinder is here also. So we need to remember that the ability of individuals to remember and dwell on traumatizing experiences differs significantly. And no two persons react to the same experiences in the same way. No two groups of people even react the same way. So we always need to remember that when we are dealing with mental health of immigrants. We also always need to keep in mind that any intervention to help the displaced, especially those who come with trauma and PTSD, in order for them to heal and continue and go through the post-traumatic growth, is to be considerate of the survival's historical, cultural, even mythological, lingual, spiritual, religious background. We always need to keep that in mind. Now, by bridging the informal and formal and professional care services, and also providing care with a deep understanding of the client's culture and their intersectional identity, that's another very important thing we need to always consider, that in each person's intersectional identity. Then it would definitely expedite the healing process and would help our clients overcome the challenges that they're facing. At AllyNetwork, we strive to create this dialogue, to create a dialogue, as Sofiane also mentioned, which is necessary to understand each other, coming together as a community to raise awareness about mental health in general and mental health of immigrants and refugees in particular. And of course, at AllyNetwork, I have to go back to AllyNetwork, is that we do this by offering psychoeducation sessions, support sessions, and with creating content. Here, I have to give a shout out to our content developer, Jasmine Yasaman Kokan, who hopefully is watching us. And also with having a symposium like this, which is so wonderful to have this here and to have this many people present and others watch us on internet. I'm really happy we are doing this. So today we're going to talk about this immigrant workforce in the hospitality and tourism industry and the LGBTQ as well. The first roundtable, we are going to have two roundtables. The first one discusses the pandemic, especially impacted the voluntary position, such as housekeeping and back of the house. In hospitality and tourism, a certain group of people are called back of the house. The pandemic has affected them hardly, and there is a rise in suicidal ideation. So we need to address that, and I'm really happy that we have this space, we are creating this space to talk about that. So for that panel discussion, Dr. Faranaik Memarzadeh is going to join us, of course, through the recordings that she had sent us from San Jose State. And also we have Satvinder, who is here, who is our clinical supervisor at DHTI, and she's going to talk about the mental health when it comes to the industry, hospitality and tourism industry. Let's see. Now, as we celebrate the Pride Month, our second roundtable focuses on LGBTQ immigrants and discusses the importance of coming out. We're going to ask, is it really necessary to come out? How much of it is forced? How much of it is encouraged? And we're going to look at the intersectional inequality and discrimination within the LGBTQ community, and especially LGBTQ immigrants. For this session, Khulud Nasser, who is a mental health provider, she has sent us, they had sent us their recordings to us. We're going to play for you. Dr. J. Africa is here, who is the Director of Behavioral Health and Recovery Services at the County of Marin. We are very proud to have you here today. Cesar was going to join us, Cesar Zepeta, but unfortunately he cannot join us. He was diagnosed with COVID-19. He's got COVID-19, so he's not going to come with us. But later we're going to share more about these people with you. Both of these roundtables will be facilitated by AllyNetwork team. That would be myself and my friend Ida, who is the wellness advocate and trainer, Ida Negron. I'm glad that you're here. And also, it is a good place to actually to mention that many people help with this symposium, and it's so good to have you all here. Just on behalf of Ida and myself as AllyNetwork team, we are very much humbled and proud to be able to bring this symposium to you, the first AllyNetwork Mental Health Symposium, not only to the mental health providers of Alameda County, but to the immigrants and to our clients. We hope that you enjoyed the symposium and find it educational. At the end, of course, we're going to have musical performances by a wonderful artist, Piwai, who's going to join us later. Around 4:30 or so, we're going to have her perform for us. But prior to that, we also have the graduation. Sophia is going to take care of that. So it's very exciting. Now, as mentioned earlier, AllyNetwork is the result of a collaboration between DHTI and the Social Changery. It is the brainchild, I have to say this, it's the brainchild of Lisa Smooth, the principal and CEO of the Social Changery, and former DHTI Executive Director, Beatrice Lee. I hope Beatrice is also watching us today. But before I introduce Lisa and ask her to come to the podium, of course, after my talk, we're going to have a short film very short one, about AllyNetwork. But before I introduce Lisa, I would like to send my greetings and appreciation to Aubrey Lara, who is the COO of the Social Changery. Aubrey, if you're there, I hope you're there watching us. Hello. I have to say, for the last year and a half since I became the manager of AllyNetwork, thank you, Aubrey has been a really solid rock for me to be there. She goes beyond her job and her education and her knowledge and expertise, and she puts her heart in it. So I really appreciate that. And it's really interesting that after 2 years of meeting with Lisa on Zoom, finally today I got to meet you in person. It's wonderful. So a little bit about Lisa, and then I will leave the podium. So Lisa Smooth, as I mentioned, is the founder and the CEO of the Social Changery. Lisa Smooth has more than 20 years of senior level experience in developing, executing, and evaluating public health initiatives on local, statewide, national, and international projects. Ms. Smooth is widely regarded as a subject matter expert in mental health stigma reduction and has served as a subject matter expert for California's mental health movement, Each Mind Matters, international stigma reduction campaigns, and the Harvard University Global Health Delivery Project as an expert panelist on addressing mental health stigma. Ms. Smooth has been interviewed by television, radio, and print news media outlets for her expertise on mental health and stigma issues, and has extensive experience working with college-age young adults and culturally responsive approaches to promoting public and mental health in diverse communities. For the past 16 years, Lisa has headed a highly successful consulting firm providing strategic counsel, advocacy, and subject matter expertise to public health and educational organizations across California. Lisa is also an instructor at California State University, East Bay, where she has been teaching for the past 17 years. Ms. Smooth teaches graduate level coursework for future marriage and family therapists, social psychologists, and school counselors, as well as undergraduate coursework in women's studies and social justice coursework. I have to make sure to take your classes, seriously, especially the women's studies. Ms. Smooth is a member of the 2022 Global Health Delivery Cohort at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. She is a licensed professional clinical counselor and holds a Master's of Science in Educational Psychology Counseling from California State University, Hayward, as well as a Bachelor's of Science in Biopsychology from California Polytechnic State University at San Luis Obispo. Please welcome Lisa. But before that, of course, we're going to watch that video clip, but please. And don't forget to do it again. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Lisa Smooth. I'm really grateful to be invited today to come and speak with you. I have to start before I talk about AllyNetwork, I'm feeling a lot of emotions. Embarrassment at having my entire resume read to you all just then. A lot of joy and pride for Pride Month. Hope and excitement to share with you all of this hard work that went into this project for the past 2 years. And also, I have to be very frank and say that my heart is also very, very heavy today as a woman. But I also have to say, and this relates to what we're going to talk about, my heart being heavy is pretty theoretical, honestly. The threat to me is pretty theoretical from what happened today in the Supreme Court. I'm a woman with many privileges. I'm well past my childbearing years. I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is probably one of the most protected places in our nation right now. But for many, many people, it is not a theoretical threat. There are many people out there today that can become pregnant, a trans and non-binary person trapped in poverty, who can no longer access healthcare services for a pregnancy, a young woman, a teenager, underage, living in the South, or maybe an immigrant refugee woman who is afraid to access healthcare because of the federal decisions. And we are all our sister's keeper. And all of those people will need a network of allies around them to get through this time and to find our way out to the other side, back to the country that I believe us to be. And this is not the only battle that has happened. It feels like we've had a lot of these moments where our hearts were heavy over the last 6 years. And AllyNetwork was born during one of these times. So back in 2018, then Executive Director Beatrice Lee and I were talking. It's 2018. There was a lot of judgments again coming down from the Supreme Court and the Executive Office about immigrant populations and some rulings that impacted their lives very significantly and their mental health. And that was the time when we came up with this idea of we need to connect people in immigrant, refugee, and newcomer communities to the mental health and support that they deserve to have in a way that is safe for them, where they can search it anonymously and not feel like they have to give anything away, where they can access it free of charge if they have insurance or Medi-Cal or wherever they're at in that journey. And they need to be able to speak with someone who looks like them, speaks their language, and understands the cultural context of where they're coming from. So that was where it was born. And we got our first round of funding and started to build. And then the funding got pulled. And we were daunted once again. And then the pandemic happened. And with renewed feeling of urgency, Beatrice and I met again to talk about the new needs and the new things that faced our immigrant and refugee communities and how much more important this service and this connection to mental health was. And so we were very grateful, though, in April of 2020, right after the pandemic started, to receive funding once again and begin the project, which we are going to be showing you today. So I don't need to tell anyone in this room about why it's necessary, why it's needed, especially in light of the pandemic and some of the findings, out of the surveys. If you're a data and research person, the findings are there. More than ever, folks from immigrant and refugee communities need access to support. And during the pandemic, it was interesting. So many people from these communities were saying that COVID was less of a worry than their immigration status and the threats that they faced due to their experiences in that. And so AllyNetwork was really designed with that at heart to try to meet those needs. So how it's different, right? There's a million different search databases out there for mental health services and finding providers, but this one is unique in a couple of different ways. One is that we only feature providers that are willing to do pro bono, free costs, or low-cost Medi-Cal services. Only those. You won't find anyone charging $250 an hour for their services in this network. We know that everyone in the database has had training and awareness training to be culturally responsive, to be able to speak languages, to be able to serve the community properly. And everything about this is anonymous. So a person can access this on the web without having to enter details about their life and who they are and their background, so without fear can look and reach out for the help. The other way this is different is it isn't just about getting connected to a mental health provider. You know, sometimes I think, and I am a mental health provider, but I think we emphasize it too much. Go get help, go speak to a mental health provider. And that's important to have access to those tools. But mental health is about a lot of other things than just mental illness or just being seen by somebody who is a licensed clinician, right? Mental health is being able to have a happy family life, to be able to access safe housing, to be able to take care of your stress and your health and well-being. And so we've tried to add to the website not just how to get help from a professional, but also information on things of how to help yourself in different kinds of circumstances, how to find community, all of those things that we know are a part of real healing and real mental health. So how are we doing so far? So we've just launched the website. We're really excited about that. We've had about 10,000 visits so far, which is great, but it is just a beginning, right? We're new, we've just started this. But the thing that we're finding that's interesting is you can see on the left there's a chart that shows the ages of the folks that are accessing it. And so on the very far left are our TAY, right? So our 18-year-olds to 25-year-olds. And then that second blue bar is that 25 to 34-year-old group. And then it progressively goes down in age over there. And you can see that the folks that are really accessing this, there's a lot of young people accessing this. And we don't even know how many folks under 18 are accessing it because it's not captured. But you can see our young people are reaching out. And both folks that identify as both men and women are getting there, which is important because sometimes we know that folks that identify as female tend to seek services more highly, as Shirin mentioned in her talk. But more than the demographics, more than the how many page visits has there been, something that I thought was really hopeful, that made me feel like I think we're doing something right, is how long people are staying on the site. So industry average time for a teen, a young adult, right? So that's one of our groups that we reach as teens and young adults through this, is 54 seconds. So that's industry standard. So if you have a website and they're on your page for 54 seconds, that's a good thing. That means you succeeded and you have met the industry standards. On AllyNetwork, they're spending 4 minutes and 40 seconds. And that's a huge win. It's not just, thank you. It's a huge win. It's not just numbers. That means somebody is staying on there because they're getting information, because they're finding value, because they're finding the things that they need. And so for me, that's the best number of all that we have so far to date, is the fact that people are getting what they need. And so what I'm here to talk to you about today is some of the other good things that we found and how we can keep that going. So what are our users saying? So, we have over 410 mental health providers in the database. That's a huge win too. That was really hard to get all 410 of those in there. And, we've surveyed over 82 folks out in the community to see what they thought of it. All of the things on the site are led by the community. So what do the images look like? What are the words that we use? What are the categories? What kind of information do you want to see? That's all informed from the community. And folks that have used it said nearly that they would use this to find a mental health provider, that professionals say they would share this with their clients to help them find support. And the participants, this is also really important to me, complimented the website's inclusivity and the diversity of imagery, providers, and resources. So for me, that is just a manifestation, not of our work, but of the fact that we let this be designed by the community for the community that it was intended to serve. So this is where you come in. We all need a network of allies around us right now. And our immigrant and refugee populations need it more than ever. And you can be that network of allies whomever you are in this community. If you're a provider that provides culturally responsive services and knows how to meet the needs of this community, you can volunteer to be on here and serve people in your community. If you are someone out there that knows folks, you can tell them about this resource. You can share this with them when they need it, when they need help. And another way you can do it is to help us to be sustained and to give funding. So I want to leave you with that entreaty. Now more than ever, we all need each other. So please, if you can, support AllyNetwork and help us to get this tool to more people out there. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Now that you're all here, please feel free to have a little 10-minute break, grab some food, and we'll reconnect, okay?
大家好，我個名叫 Carrie， 我有一位小朋友喺2歲嘅時候被醫生評估為輕度自閉症，所以依家我同你哋分享下我嘅心路歷程，內容分為4部分。第一，我係點樣發現我個小朋友有自閉症嘅呢？我做咗啲乜嘢？喺我小朋友1歲半嘅時候，我發現咗佢唔係咁中意啦，學習大人係點樣講嘢㗎，點樣教佢啦，佢都唔肯㗎。喺2019年11月份，去醫院做咗個2歲身體檢查嘅時候啦，同醫生溝通咗，佢建議我哋啦去約時間做評估，睇下係咩原因啦導致到佢語言發育緩遲嘅。經過2次評估後，喺2020年嘅6月份見到兒童心理醫生，佢話我嘅小朋友有輕度自閉症，一開始都幾難接受㗎，但係點都要去面對事實，盡自己最大嘅努力啦去幫助佢。萬幸呢發現得早干預呢效果係更加好㗎。咁建議大家啦早啲預約專家，因為等待嘅時間啦非常之耗時㗎。我大概等待咗半年啦，先至可以見到呢位兒童心理醫生。兒童心理醫生建議我哋嘅小朋友啦去參與 ABA 嘅課程。等待咗4個月嘅時候啦，喺2020年嘅10月底開始咗 ABA 嘅課程。呢個課程咧都幾有幫助㗎。參與咗1個月，我嘅小朋友啦已經可以接受到學習大人講嘢嘅呢項技能啦，唔再好似以前咁樣抗拒。第二，我係點樣認識到東灣區域中心，亦即係 Regional Centre 嘅呢？過程係點嘅呢？喺2020年11月底，喺電台聽到關於有個機構啦，可以幫助特殊小朋友，個名咧就叫東灣區域中心。咁我咧就打電話啦去問電台啦，電台都提供咗個電話俾我啦。認識咗李小姐，李小姐咧係屬於 DHTI 嘅工作人員，佢幫助咗我好多，非常之感謝佢啊！喺2020年嘅12月份填咗表啦，申請咗東灣區域中心同埋幼兒園。喺2021年嘅3月，東灣區域中心嘅工作人員啦，同埋我小朋友試咗個頻，做咗一次評估。到咗2021年嘅11月，東灣區域中心嘅負責我小朋友嘅案件case manager 啦，張小姐啦同我取得聯繫。佢話俾我聽啦，東灣區域中心啦可以幫助到我小朋友啦，有啲咩服務啊咁。但係咧，因為咧每個人嘅情況係唔同嘅，具體咧，如果你哋得到啲咩服務啦，係睇翻你哋嘅 case manager 係點樣講噶。我個小朋友啦，可以得到每個月40小時嘅照顧服務，呢個時間啦係俾媽媽休息時間噶，會有啦啲 SP 技能嘅工作人員上門。 幫助你咧照顧小朋友。咁媽媽啦可以趁呢個時間咧去買下嘢啊，咁放鬆下心情噶。第三啦，我係點樣去睇待 Regional Centre 嘅服務？我嘅小朋友依家狀態係點樣嘅呢？ Regional Centre 中文名就叫東灣區域中心啦，佢係特殊兒童小朋友嘅最後強力嘅後盾。咁有啲咩問題呢？可以揾翻你哋個 case manager 去溝通噶。咁佢亦都會有中文嘅 case manager 噶，所以係唔怕語言唔通嘅問題。另外啦，等待咗小朋友長大，如果佢揾唔到工作啦，亦都可以咧同東灣區域中心啦去諮詢嘅。咁佢哋都可以提供翻啲就業信息啦俾你揀噶。所以呢一點咧就係令到我係唔怕我小朋友長大咗之後揾唔到工作嘅困境。依家我嘅小朋友啦，佢喺2021年嘅5月份啦去咗幼兒園啦。佢依家狀態非常之好啊！佢可以講出完整嘅句子啦，同埋佢可以簡單咁講出自己嘅感受，亦都會懂得啦去觀察別人嘅喜怒哀樂啦。咁佢都會關心下別人噶。佢依家咧慢慢咧可以理解到人哋講嘅規矩係點樣同人哋一齊玩啊。依家我咧就比較安慰啦。第4點，我參與咗 DSP 培訓計劃，係咩原因令到我去學習 DSP 技能嘅呢？對我有啲咩好處啊？喺2021年10月 DHTI 工作人員李小姐嘅提議下，我參加咗 DSP 技能課程。呢個課程呢係晚上上課嘅網絡課程，佢係由 Casual Value Adult School 咧合作噶。課程咧由2位老師上課，上課嘅內容啦係關於點樣去照顧特殊兒童啦、成人、老人為主嘅課程。喺照顧嘅過程中會發生啲咩情況，同埋點樣去處理。學習咗呢個課程之後，讓我更加了解到我要點樣去更好照顧我嘅小朋友成長。我亦都希望自己可以幫助到好似我小朋友咁嘅兒童。
Hi, everyone. We're going to reconvene. All right. All right, if everyone could just get back to your seat, get some refreshers, and we have, 2 round tables coming up. I wanted to give another round of applause to Shirin and Lisa for their awesome speech. With that said, I also wanted to thank Josh Blum from Neville Group for making a $2,077 donation. Thank you. We're still accepting donations, so please, please, please keep donating, because these services that we provide for pro bono wouldn't be viable without your support. So please, please help us help serve the most vulnerable and marginalized immigrant communities. Thank you. With that said, I am going to hand this over to Ida, who is our AllyNetwork wit. And she is going to introduce our panelists here. Thank you, Ida.
Thank you, Spain. My name is Ida Negron. Hello. I have the honor of presenting the first roundtable for today's symposium. As Shirin mentioned, our topic is around the alarming rise in suicidal ideation among hospitality tourist workforce. So all those brothers and sisters working for restaurants, hotels, know that they are at great risk of suicide, of completing suicide. So that's where we're here today, to give you more information about this important topic. And it's an honor for me to have 2 great speakers for this part. First, we have Dr. Faranak Memarsadeh. Let's talk about her a little bit. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Hospitality, Tourism, and Event Management at San Jose State University. See, we know who we asked, right? She received her master's degree in international hospitality management and obtained a PhD from Texas Tech University in hospitality administration. And her research is focused on sustainable operations and innovation. She's also serving in the editorial review board of several journals and conferences, and teaching hospitality courses such as sustainable operations, entrepreneurship, hotel operations, destination marketing, internship, and independent studies. So she has also professional experience working and auditing hotels and hospitality companies such as Hilton and the Marriott. So with that said, the first question for Dr. Farag is around statistics. But I would like to give you a little bit of context before having Dr. Faranak via video answering this first question. In an internet survey done in Japan in August to September 2020, 8.5% of more than 12,000 participants had persistent suicidal ideation, while 3.2% were newly developing suicidal ideation in the COVID-19 pandemic. Sensitivity analysts showed temporary employment was significantly associated with persistent suicidal ideation only in women, while the newly developed suicidal ideation was higher among younger generations and those employed in drinking, eating, hotel industry. This was in addition to those who had a history of psychiatric disease. With that said, we asked Dr. Faranak, what are the statistics of the suicide problem among hospitality and tourism workforce, especially the immigrant refugees in the United States and particularly here in California.
Hello, everyone. My name is Faranek Memorzadeh. I'm Associate Professor from San Jose State University and from Department of Hospitality, Tourism, and Event Management. It's my honor to be part of this wonderful event, and my special thanks to my dear friend Shirin for inviting me. And thank you so much for all of the wonderful work that AllyNetwork doing. And I wish all of you best of luck. Thank you so much and have a wonderful event. Bye-bye. So in terms of knowing that, what is the rates in terms of like suicide for hospitality and service industry related to the United States and California. Unfortunately, there is no such a specific data available to discuss about that, but the fact is that in the United States, more than 100 million people directly working for service industry. And this shows that how important and how big this industry is in the United States. And how important or big role this industry is working or having in terms of economic impact in the United States economy. But on the other hand, it's interesting to know that their average of their salary is 71% lower than the federal minimum wage, which shows that 1/3 of the country, which they are working in such important industry, they are not paying well. And on the other hand, we know that service industry hit by a pandemic the most. So if you connect all of these dots to each other, we can easily get to this conclusion that we are dealing with a big anxiety, which at least directly, if we are not talking about indirect impact, with half of the country, if not most, just because of this statistics that we are talking now. Another fact that we have to consider, just speaking of the nature of the customer in the service industry, is that the idea of that customer is always right is a very fundamental business idea, which is true. Because we, in this industry, we are always trying to offer the best for our customers. But on the other hand, we are thinking about the impact of this fact or this idea, business idea on employees that they are working in the industry. It puts a lot of pressure and anxiety in the employee, regardless of their mental health, regardless of their situation, and regardless of that the fact that they had to deal with a lot of, unexpected situation caused by pandemic. So these are all shows that how much anxiety comes from just dealing with one fact that's going on in the reality, and another fact that they have to deal with the requirements of this industry, that they have to always deal with their own, anger if they are not agree with something. These are the things they have to they have to deal with it, because they shouldn't forget that customer is right. So that's why it's not that's not easy to work in a service industry, and put a lot of pressure on the workers in this sector. Important factors that I wanted to just share with you, regardless of talking about this pandemic, because we know that pandemic caused a special condition for everybody. So I thought to just look at the data and see what was the situation before the pandemic, if you want to see the mental health in a service industry. And that's very, very remarkable to see that the substance abuse in the service industry workers was 17% based on the study that conducted in 2018, which was much higher than the other, sectors or in the nation, which was 9%. Restaurant workers had 84% reported depression, and 79% anxiety, and 50% substance abuses, which is really high for just one restaurant, workers sectors. And this is the condition which is not related to pandemic. And just imagine adding the pandemic situation on top of this, which they hit by pandemic very hard, and they lost their job. They were maybe one of those first industries or first employees that they lost their job. Just imagine how much stress and how much mental health issue they had to deal with. Besides this, I just want to share another information. Although they are not from United States, but it's a good indicator to see that what's happening around the world in the similar industry. In 2021, the article that I was reading saying that in the restaurant industry, 14 chefs, they suicide. And this 14 chef, it was just an industry friend of one famous chef that he was talking about. He knows these 14 industry friends that they suicide during the pandemic, and which is a lot. I mean, it's unbelievable that what happened during the pandemic to people. And mental health, data that coming from around the world, similar, and shows that people during the pandemic experience a lot of anxiety. And another study also shows that 70% of hospitality workers reporting overwork, and almost 50% of them take some time off because of their stress. So just putting all of this together, high expectation of work, and having long working hours, low average of pays, and also the fact that they are not sure how stable their position is going to be. These are the facts for sure. If you just put together and put them next to each other, you can easily find out that this industry is has a high potential to deal with anxiety and mental health issues. And since we are dealing with the situation that, unfortunately, this is the industry that almost half of the country is directly or indirectly working for that. It shows the number of people that can easily get impacted by the consequence of the working condition. On the other hand, the problem is that most of the time people working in back of the house in service industry, for example, working in the housekeeping department or in a restaurant as a dishwasher or other sectors that really they don't need much of skills or language to do the job. Usually those people are even more vulnerable because they usually, they are the people easily can be replaced, and which most of the time happens. So there are not much protection in terms of their job security. So as you can see, there are even like deeper layer of, lack of job security goes for this type of people, which most of the time people that they are immigrant, or like people that, maybe they don't have proper, maybe language, skills, or they don't have any special professional degrees or any professional, work-related certificates or anything like that. Usually they're working in this industry in the back of the house. So they are very, very vulnerable to lose their jobs. And they did lose their jobs during the pandemic because their job, because of the nature of their job, they really didn't have much of necessity in terms of knowledge or skills or experience. And when it comes to the management team to decide who should go first, usually they come up with this group of employees first, unfortunately.
Thank you to Dr. Nemarzadeh for sharing that information with us. We also bring some curiosity to the topic, and we are asking if there's a difference between the female and male workforce for this type of ideation of suicide.
So the question is, if there is a difference between female and male employee, and in terms of mental health issues. Based on the studies that I reached out, there is no such a definite study in hospitality or service industry, but the general information shows that male has higher risk in terms of suicide, which is 15 times more than female in general, but there is no such a study specifically talking about hospitality industry to know what is the percentages are. But the fact is that we know having a very vulnerable job and long working hours and being in a very uncertain situation and working in an environment that a lot of pressure on workers, and having this feeling that they can lose their job anytime, and with any small changes in environment or in the situation. There's a lot of pressure for anyone, no matter if you're a female or male. So it's a very stressful situation, which consequently can cause a lot of mental health in their situation. So it shows that it can cause a lot of problem for both gender, no matter which industry they're working, either in hotel or in restaurant or any other sector in a service industry. But before or regardless of the pandemic, the main reason that studies shows that led to suicide in America and the United States was long hours of working, which 46% of the suicide reason related to this long hours of working based on the studies. But although we know that there is a certain reason, like being vulnerable and long hours of working and being in a uncertain situation that what's going to happen and losing job easily because of the pandemic or any other unexpected situation. These are all causes problems, and they are, of course, very important and very a serious situation that causes, mental health in vulnerable people's life. We need to also focus on some facts that how we can cope with the situation, how we can prevent the situation. So I found this very short articles that I thought it's good to share with you because we all know the problem, but the fact is that how we can deal with this and how we can prevent these problems. This article talks about how we should all know about the signs. If you are talking about or you're thinking about suicide, or anyone that who keep talking about suicide, this is a sign that you should be aware of. As an employer, they are responsible to provide a training course because not everybody knows how and where they can reach out to this kind of help and support. So employers also need to provide this kind of they have to facilitate this services to help their team to reach this kind of help, especially for those that they don't know much about where they can reach out to this help, so where they can find this kind of support is very important. And everybody should take this kind of situation, this kind of conversation, any signs, any indicator very seriously. If somebody talks about suicide, don't consider as a joke, don't consider as a just a funny conversation. Everybody should take it very serious. And if you know any coworker, if you know anyone around you that you can help, either with your talk or helping this person by introducing to someone, or any way that you can help, please do it. Help your coworkers, help your people, help your community to work together to solve this problem. And you as a person, if you need help, just reach out for support, because nobody knows us better than us. So we have to be the first person to reach out if we need help. So these are very basic maybe advice that I was reading, and I thought it's good to share with you because I believe that by now we all know about the problem, we heard or we experienced the problem. So it's good to know after knowing the problem, what else we can do and what's the next action item or practical items that we have to think about that.
Thank you to Dr. Memarsadeh again. Our last question, we were curious to know what makes this particular workforce so susceptible during the pandemic to this ideation.
Hospitality industry or service industry is very unique in terms of being very vulnerable for the situation that people are working and their customers that they are coming to this industry and they're looking for a service is some sort of like getting the best of everything with no exception, and they're looking for something that makes their life better because they're paying for getting their experience of being served and getting some really nice time and getting a very peaceful and relaxing experience. So this is the definition of hospitality industry in general. for example, where you are in a hotel or where you are in a restaurant, you are paying to get that experience, and you don't really think about employees' situation, that what kind of day they had, where they are coming from, or what exactly, how was they spend their day, and so you're just paying for your own kind of perfect experience. So this puts a lot of pressure on workers in the service industry, because we all know that they have to be there for offering the service and making sure that everything is perfect for the customer. And because of that, it makes their life very under stress and anxiety. And so just imagine having this stressful, lifestyle, and on top of the environment that they have to, for example, deal with pandemic, and after having all of those experience that either they lost their jobs or they back to their life after all of those different, 2-3 years of, hard times that they had, still they are dealing with because they don't know what's going to happen in the future. So this is kind of an ongoing situation that they are dealing with, and they haven't done yet. So considering all of those makes the hospitality industry very unique in terms of dealing with the pandemic situation, and how they deal with this pandemic, and how this makes them very vulnerable in terms of dealing with the situation. Is if I want to put the service industry in few words, I can say that based on the articles that I was reading, it says that service industry is a group of people that they're working in. They are essential workers, they are frontline workers, they are low-wage workers, and vulnerable workers. So as you can see, based on this definition, they are doing all the important jobs. They should be there because their work is very important, but their pay is low, and they are very vulnerable to lose their job. So how even is possible that somebody's jobs will be very important and at the same time to be very vulnerable to lose that position? And this is the condition that hospitality industry or service industry people always dealing with. So this shows that, or it's easily just explain that why this market is very vulnerable to pandemic, because the nature of this industry is vulnerable, and anything on top of that is make it even more, fragile to cope with the situation. So maybe having with more, structural definitions and more strong, guidelines and maybe laws that can kind of protect the peoples or peoples that they are working in the industry, they can have a better or more solid, future or more solid positions, that they don't need to be worried about, losing their jobs right away with the first, pandemic that they hit the country. I'm not saying that they were the only people they lost their job, but pretty much the hospitality industry was hit by pandemic the most. And it shouldn't be like that, and they shouldn't be the people that they kind of forgotten right away. And because of that, now that we already kind of over the pandemic, hotel industry and other service industry, they are having a hard time to hire those employees back, because after that experience, it's not easy to kind of trust and go back to the industry, because they are looking, on one hand, they are looking for the pay, and on the other hand, they are looking for the responsibility, and then they think about what if something again happens, again, they're going to lose their jobs and everything. So in just short answer is that the nature of this industry makes it very vulnerable, and the better strategies should be considered to make it stronger for employees, because we know that service industry is a big portion of economy's benefits for this country and everywhere. So it should come up with better protection, especially for those that they are working maybe less. They're working for jobs that they don't need much of experience, but they are very important. Hotels cannot be performed without having a very active dishwashers and very active housekeeping department, which is very important in each hotels. Restaurants cannot be successful without having a really good back of the house employees. So they are very important in the service industry. So they need and they deserve to have a better protection in order to perform the best.
Thank you, Doctor, for all this information that you have provided us. I was just thinking, the next time we go to a restaurant, right, or a hotel, something to think about and practice some empathy with our brothers and sisters who are part of this workforce. But now, last but not least, I am here with our next speaker, Satwinder Mahabir. Did I pronounce well your name? Thank you. I can be talking about her all day, but we have time limitations. So I'm gonna say that she is a licensed marriage and family therapist with the California Board of Behavioral Sciences. She has over 20 years of experience supporting people to navigate the challenges that life brings us all. She has advanced training in working with depression and anxiety using a humanistic model, narrative therapy, and mindfulness practice. Her specialty includes working with teens and young adults who may be challenged with self-esteem issues, difficulty navigating familiar relationships, challenges at school, of course, exploration of their sexual orientation or gender identity expression, and much more. Welcome, Satwinder. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You can use your mic. The questions we have for you, we ask a lot of questions to the experts, right? We have to. Instead of making assumptions, we need to ask those questions. So from the point of view of a mental health provider, please discuss how important it is to get help early at the time of emotional distress.
Sure, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be part of this organization and be here with all of you today. So I definitely think that early intervention is key. There's, what we know, the World Health Organization identifies that there is over 60% reduction in completed suicides if we're able to intervene early. And most suicides at the time that they have actually tried to carry it out, we know that people have reached out for support multiple times before that, tried to access care, and have not been able to do that. So when we talk about early intervention, part of the reason why it's so important to and so effective to intervene early is simply for the fact that it gives us more time, right? So more time to be able to touch their lives, be able to intervene at different points in their lives, and be able to connect them with resources. As a clinician, part of what we really look at is identifying warning signs. And being able to identify warning signs early can really change the trajectory of someone's life. Part of what we look at is, are there health conditions, underlying health conditions that are impacting someone's ability to function, increasing their suicidality, increasing their depression. A lot of times there are underlying health issues that just go unseen. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that people have access to care, health care, get checked out, and make sure that we're not missing something. The other warning signs that we want to look at are things like increased abuse of substances. Are people starting to rely more on substances to sort of manage their own symptoms? Oftentimes people start to self-medicate, and we see that often, and being able to really support them around that can be really a life-changing intervention. So when we talk about, other risk factors, sometimes what we see early on is social isolation. We see young people starting to perform really low, not so well in school, maybe getting into fights, a lot of agitation, anger, or for young girls, sometimes it can look more like internalized feelings, like maybe eating disorders are starting to come up, excessive crying, not being able to get along with friends, losing interest in their normal activities, maybe not getting along at home with siblings or family members. So when we start to notice symptoms like that or behaviors that are different than what we know of the person, it really gives us an opportunity to intervene, ask questions, find out how we can bring in more resources, connect them to more supports, and hopefully give them what they need so that they know that there's more options out there. The last thing that I'll talk about in terms of early intervention is we do also look at protective factors. So on the one side, we have risk factors. On the other side, we have protective factors. And what those things are things that actually protect people from, their mental health issues from increasing and their level of suicidality growing. Some protective factors are having people around them that are supportive, even just one person that they can have in their life that they can talk to and feel that they are being seen and heard. And, are they socially active? Are they in sports? Do they feel like they have a place that they belong? Being able to have access to healthcare, all of those things that I've already spoken about. What we're able to do early is start connecting them and start identifying if they're lacking protective factors, how do we increase those? So I think, for all of these reasons, it is really important to intervene early, and as we've seen and heard, the outcomes are just much better for folks when we intervene early.
Thank you, Satwinder. And finally, we want to know, what can we do? Those of us who are not trained in mental health services, like me, we want to know what to do. What would you recommend as an expert in this topic if we, for example, see some warning signs? We see a friend, a person from our family, what do we do?
Sure, it's a great question. It brings me back to being in my graduate program and going through all this schooling to become a therapist, just to have my professor say, you know, the number one factor determining whether someone benefits from your services is actually your relationship and not your skills. And I thought, okay, well, let's go back to the basics then. So what I would say is the very first and most important thing that you can do is be there for someone. Listen to them, listen to their story. Don't judge them. Just be a friend. You know, be the person that you would need, right? You want to understand their needs. And again, you know, what kinds of things can you do to support them? Of course, we also do want to look for symptoms when someone reaches out for help. And as clinicians, we definitely want to assess for certain symptoms. We want to understand, is there trauma history for this person or the family? Because what we know is when someone is impacted by trauma or post-traumatic stress disorder, their viewpoint, the way that they think about themselves and the world around them is drastically changed. And so because of that, there is treatment that, you know, is offered to help them sort of understand what's happened to them, how it's impacted their lives, and how they can take, like, sort of regain that control and be able to start to feel better. The other thing that I would say is to not be afraid of depression and not be afraid of talking about suicide. That's one of the things that I think can really limit people's ability to get help, because there is a stigma around mental health for sure, and people don't know how to talk about suicide. A lot of people wonder, should I even say it? Because if I say the word, am I actually giving them ideas? The reality of it is that no, you're not giving them ideas. They've already thought about everything. Our young people have access to media, social media, all kinds of things. And the more that you can name it, and open the door to having a conversation about it, the more comfortable and safe the other person is going to feel, and they're going to know that you're not afraid. And if you're not afraid, then I can open up and really tell you what's going on inside. I think naming it, demystifying suicidality, demystifying depression and anxiety and all of the mental health disorders can really be powerful. The last thing that I'll mention is, as clinicians, I mean, we definitely focus on safety planning. If you're not a clinician, you can still do that with people that you care about. You know, talk to them about, hey, next time you feel like this, what can you do that will help you? Can you take a bath? Can you go for a walk? Can you call your mom? Can you call a friend? You don't have to be a clinician to do that. So you have a lot of power just in listening in a non-judgmental way, looking out for symptoms and safety planning.
Thank you, Sadwinder.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing that information with us and for all you do for the wellness of others. And now I want to invite you guys to do a search on Google or Yahoo or the website of your preference. Go and type DHTI.org, and you will find our page there. And there's a button for access your PayPal account. And you will go there and you will donate to us because we want to continue this work and we don't want financial restraints to be a barrier for us. So thank you very much. Thank you again to our panelists, and let's continue with our event.
Thank you, Satvinder. Oh, is this on? Yeah. Thank you, Satvinder, Aida, and Faranak. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Please help yourself with food and everything. We're going to be back in 10 minutes. Thank you.
The Young Leaders for Community Wellness program is intended to introduce and increase preparedness to pursue behavioral mental health careers among newcomer immigrant students in the East Bay. The first learning pathway is housed at Oakland International High School, our primary partner, and it's through their Wellness Center, where they work with student leaders to build wellness strategies and skills that they can use to support themselves, but also that they promote within the school community.
It's important for me to be in this program so I could support other people, my community, my family, and maybe in the future myself.
We have Learning Pathway 2, which is a mental health internship that DHTI runs. It's for career-focused students who want to learn about behavioral mental health careers and concepts. And then we have Learning Pathway 3. Through this pathway, we have a number of different programs, including a leadership day at Cal State East Bay and a summer bridge up at Merritt College.
I think I have learned a lot through this program, but the biggest thing for sure is see everything from different perspectives. I have grown up through this, and that has increased my knowledge, not just in mental health, but the whole healthcare field.
So we work with a number of educational and employment partners to take a systems level approach, and we're really leveraging this grant opportunity to not only serve our newcomer students through workforce development programming, but also to help the larger system understand how to serve newcomer students, since now 1 in 3 residents in Alameda County are foreign born. And so we desperately need newcomers to be in behavioral mental health careers with the linguistic and cultural capacity that they have, and their deep resilience and knowing about their communities to serve their communities directly.
Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. We're going to convene and start the second roundtable. Hello. Hi, everyone. Congratulations, by the way. Thank you, Jay. Sure. Welcome back. We are going to have our second roundtable with Dr. J. Africa and Kholoud Nasser. I see that our fundraising is going good, so please keep donating. Okay, welcome back. I hope you have been enjoying the symposium. Yes. So the second panel, the second roundtable is about covering and about incompleteness of pride. We have 2 of our wonderful guests today here. Dr. J. Africa is here and Kholoud Nasser. They couldn't make it to the panel today, to the event today, but they send us their answers. So I'm going to repeat the questions that I asked Kholoud, but before I do that, I need to read their bio as well. So Kholoud Nasser is a licensed psychotherapist and drama therapist residing in the Bay Area for the last 8 years. They worked as a theater artist in Lebanon for more of their life living there. Kholoud's expertise in psychotherapy revolves mainly around trauma, grief, loss, surviving violence, immigration, transition, diversity, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, LGBTQs, issues, and more, all of which are navigated through a social justice lens inside the session with their clients and outside of it. Kholoud has been offering psychotherapy services to school children, to Arab domestic violence survivors at the Asian Women's Shelter, to asylum seekers, and currently works at the Living Arts Counseling Center. Their work attract so many Arab queer folks who are in need for establishing a reality that mirrors their intersectional identity. They send their greetings, and unfortunately they couldn't be here, but I will repeat the questions that I asked Khulud. First, we asked, okay, about the title of this roundtable is covering the incompleteness of pride. So we asked, can you talk a bit about that? And in your opinion, as immigrants yourself, how important is it to come out after the migration and in the new country? How much of coming out do you think is forced and or expected in the West, for example? And we also asked if they are willing to talk about their own experience. So let's see what they had to say. Please. Just being patient. Yes. I'll remove this. I can continue with Dr. Africa is here, and then we can come back to Khulud if you want. Mm-hmm. These are natural, you know, at symposiums, conferences, settings, everything, especially where we're dealing with technology. Maybe we can, I have to introduce you first. I cannot do this without introducing you. So as I mentioned, Dr. J. Africa is here. I'm really happy about that. They don't allow me to read the whole thing. I wanted to read the whole thing. I have to, but they said just mentioned they're the Director of Behavioral Health and Recovery Services at the County of Marin. Has lots of experience. They're innovative thought leader, strategist, clinician, and all that. They're instrumental in the opening of the transgender health clinic. And what else? There's so many things I want to say, come on. They hold a postdoctoral Master of Science degree in clinical psychopharmacology, a Doctor of the Psychology in clinical psychology, and a Master of Arts degree in clinical psychology from Alliant International University in California, School of Professional Psychology. Dr. Africa received a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Philippines in Manila in behavioral science. They're currently serving as an adjunct faculty member at the USC Sol Price School of Public Policy and the Mobuhay Health Clinic, a free student-run clinic affiliated with the University of California, San Francisco. Jay was recognized as one of the 100 most influential Filipinos in the United States. Wonderful. I have to say it was in 2009. He was celebrated as one of the 2012 LGBT local heroes by KQED and Union Bank at the Castro Theater. Wonderful. Dr. Africa is the first openly transgender county behavioral health director in the state of California and in the US. I cut many parts of it. But thank you for being here. So, yeah, sure. So the same question for you, I guess. Huh?
Sure. I want to make sure people can hear me. Thank you so much for having me here. You know, the experience of being LGBTQ in a new country is very hard. Like for any individual, I think it's really hard. And I see that experience not only learning the culture, but really navigating the new home or the new place that you're in. And so this concept of coming out to me I've often questioned coming out really, because I'm out as a transgender person, and I've known that I'm not, I don't sort of fit the sex assigned gender when I was born. I've already know that, but I actually think the concept of coming out should be changed to calling people in, right? Calling people in means that you will know more about me, because coming out is about other people, like pleasing other people, knowing what my gender identity is. But calling out is about me and allowing people to learn more about who I am as a person. So this concept of coming out is something to really think about differently, because it puts the onus on other people, the importance on other people for coming out, versus really it's about the person that's telling you, because I feel safe with you, I'm telling you who I am. So especially for somebody who's coming to this country, whether a refugee or an immigrant, I think there poses an opportunity to be connected to other people by being able to call people in. And so my experience I came here to the United States to go to graduate school to be educated, but I also was, if I can say, in a way, trying to find a place that I would feel much more safe to be who I am. But I didn't need to actually say that out loud. Mm-hmm. And so it really sort of more of an internal process. And so I feel like one of the ways that whether it's to adapt to a new country, it's really finding a place where you feel safe to be who you are so you can thrive. Now, oftentimes people try to find those places, unless obviously you're forced out of your home country. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens is the primary reason, or the first things that people do, is find communities that are safe. People that are safe enough that can be around them to help them navigate, not just because they're LGBTQ, but just to accept them for where they are in their lives. Like that for me is really the biggest issue of safety. Now, when you allow people, when you call in people, the most important piece there is really the resources so that you can continue to thrive. That really is the biggest issue, right? So, and whatever those resources are, I think are really important. So I often talk about when people are coming out, it's really connecting them to chosen family, to community resources that, again, not just helps them with their LGBTQ status, but to see them as people, to see us as people. And I feel like the identity is oftentimes more important, but really it's not about that. It's really about being seen as a human being.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I love that. It's wonderful that you called it calling people in.
Calling people in, yes, versus coming out.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful. And you do that because, we all, if we want to do that, it's because of the safe space that we really need to have. It doesn't matter if we come out and there is no safe space. So it's wonderful you mentioned that. I want to see if we have Khulud's answer to this. We do, actually. Seems like it, yes.
Everyone. First, I would like to acknowledge that I am on unceded Ohlone land. I'd like to move beyond recognition towards action, and one action we can all take today is paying the Shu'umi land tax to the Sogorite Land Trust, which is a land rematriation project led by urban indigenous women. Moving to our topic today, I would like to acknowledge the diversity of situations and identities and historical and cultural contexts that play into the topic today. And what I'm going to bring here is my own personal and professional experience as an Arab queer person and psychotherapist who moved from Lebanon to the Bay Area 8 years ago to pursue an MA in drama therapy. I'm going to bring my personal experience in order to be able to delve into the complexity of how such a situation can differ from one person to another. So please take it about a model more so than that it's about me. In my personal experience, coming out within the community in the new country, which is the US, was so important for validating my internal reality that has been suppressed for a long time. The empowerment that I felt about coming out in this American context and the external recognition I received about my sexual orientation allowed me to go through my process of integrating and owning my sexual orientation. This opening eventually led me at age of 40 years old to finally explore my gender identity, which is how do I feel in my gender, which is very different of sexual orientation. And my gender identity is something that I always had questions about, but I didn't understand the word. I didn't come from a culture where we talk about gender identity. And so I just knew that I never felt comfortable with my body and my hair presenting as a woman. And I never had the words for this feeling of suffocation I had around it. I never understood why. Therefore, this space that I had for coming out was crucial for me to dive deeper into my gender identity and gender expression as well. And to finally find out that I identify as gender non-binary, and actually the pronouns they and them feels like me more so than pronouns she and her. For many of my friends too who migrated here, and also many of my clients, I have witnessed a similar process. I witness even with children of immigrants who are first-generation American, that individuating from their families, or unfortunately in extreme cases being cut off from their families, help them have the space they need for validating their inner realities in terms of sexuality and gender, and finally having this internal reality established and have it thrive externally, from inside to outside, from inward to outward. Now, coming out is a term that takes different shapes and forms in each culture, and everyone has their own definition of it. In the West, it is very much portrayed as an announcement, and such an expectation can become a colonial expectation imposing its definition on people living in colonized spaces. So an announcement might not work somewhere else. Most people in Arab countries do not have the privilege of safety on all levels, and so coming out in this way may be harmful. I believe coming out is an internal process of coming out to oneself. This progression of moving through the different layers of coming out in oneself can lead to a healthy process that unravels organically to come out to others. That is, when we establish our inner reality, then we can bring it more easily externally. In heteronormative spaces throughout life, we are meeting people who are assuming all the time that we're straight or cis gender, etc. That which, of course, makes coming out a never-ending process. We're having to come out to people as we meet them every day and every week. So in my experience, coming out starts by internally recognizing inner resources and unblocking obstacles in our psychological processes. And then this would be followed to organically and effortlessly come out to others. And of course, safety in the community and assessing the safety, that's the number one priority. And really, there is no way to do it. Everyone deserves to be empowered enough to explore and decide how the coming out process looks like in their own life.
Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah. Thank you. I really love those answers, all of yours. And I really like that they emphasize that we need to come out to ourselves first and then look into...
Well, I don't know if it's you need to come out to yourself first. Like most people know who they are. It's the fear is the world can't accept it, so that's why they're hiding. Many of us know who we are. We might not have the words because we're just afraid of how other people are going to respond, and that's why we hide it. If we know the people around us will accept us, I would do it at 2 years old or 3. But it's the issue really of the community or the society that doesn't accept it, and so you're trying to figure out, well, what is it then do I need to do? So I want to just change that, again, to really think about the experience is different for different people. But again, for me, I don't need to come out to other people. It is a privilege when you get to know me. And that, for me, that coming out is a very Western concept. So I just want to shift my perspective there, that coming out of announcing to people, that's very Western. I already know who I am. And so it's a privilege if you know who I am, because I allow you to do it.
Yeah, they also emphasize, kind of mentioned that they refer to it as colonial concepts that we don't need to follow, actually. So wonderful. Moving on to the next question, again, we asked all panelists in regard to the discrimination and intersectional discrimination as well, recognizing that different forms of discrimination, such as labeling, denial of opportunities, stereotyping, etc., have serious impact on one's mental health. Can you briefly discuss how gender identity intersect with other cultural identities? And then we followed with another kind of sub-question, acknowledging that each one of us has his or their own unique experience of discrimination and oppression. What role does intersectional inequality and discrimination play in advancement of trauma and a prolonged PTSD? First, we listen to Kholoud, and later Jay can tell us.
When we want to talk about intersectional identities, I believe it is very important and helpful to recognize the implications of coming out on all levels, coming out as in your cultural and ethnic identity and racial identity, and coming out as gender identity and sexual identity. Because coming out meaning making your identity visible to the other. Such intersectional identities that are underrepresented can carry further complicated psychological and social processes. This intersectionality in identities is hardly held by society, especially if we're speaking about a minority of a minority. In the case, for example, of Arab queer folks, their queerness is not accepted by Arab communities, and their Arab identity is not understood and not accepted by American communities. The Arab population is very small and invisible in the Bay, let alone a queer-friendly Arab and Muslim community. So here you may be able to sense the isolation of such a situation, in addition to the lack of understanding that American folks have around immigrants and refugees, and specifically Arab and Muslim folks who have been labeled as either terrorists or pathetic victims. And this is where the tension and clash happens for people who carry such intersectional identities. It is about being misunderstood, judged, discriminated against from their multiple communities. I'd like to bring it back to my personal experience in order to dive deeper into the complexity of the situation. I landed here as an international student studying psychotherapy in a place like CIIS, which affirmed my sexual and gender identities. The issue for me, though, was that my cultural identity as an Arab was not affirmed in the experience I had with my cohort. Even being an international student was extremely hard, as so many of us international students felt unseen and unheard and excluded in so many ways, even sometimes from conversations about diversity, because we were considered outsiders, especially when it came to racial dynamics. The white standards of communication were imposed on us in many ways that felt oppressive. Even more, the narratives of what I experienced in my country, especially the involvement of the US as a funder of wars on our land, was very unseen and sometimes dismissed here. And that was very hard for me to navigate, and it left me feeling very isolated in what in my country I have experienced as collective trauma, while people here are so outspoken about white supremacy only on the US land, but not outside of it. So I felt excluded from such conversations where I should be very included and engaged and seen. So as a war survivor who survived the civil war and the several brutal invasions of Israel in my country, Lebanon, and witnessing such wars on Iraq and Palestine and Yemen and Syria, my PTSD got really exacerbated here with this intersectional inequality in such a US-centric environment that does not create healing around its perpetuation through imperialism and funding wars. People learned here how to speak politically correct language and own their privileges, but did not arrive there yet, in my experience, when it comes to brown bodies outside the US. And instead, people view themselves as the enlightened West, giving us an opportunity to be free in our gender identity and sexual identities from these homophobic countries. But they dismissed that they, in the first place, colonized our countries and pushed to post-colonial homophobic practices in our countries. Therefore, I experienced so much dissonance that this intersectional inequality and discrimination for compassion and discrimination in examining privileges and excluding me or us from the compassion and from the work that needs to be done, this has impacted me and my mental health deeply, and for a long period of time, I couldn't function well academically while I'm navigating a new culture that turns its eye away when it comes to the Middle East or the role of the US fueling wars and funding wars. So there was a dissonance, like in one hand, they were like, oh, please come, right? So my sexual orientation was celebrated and it wasn't held back home, but also the American context was not able to hold my Arab identity and my history and the privileges and oppression that needed to be examined in our dynamics. And so this created so much tension. So these examples demonstrate why it's so important to bring political conversations into Pride and use a queer lens that is intersectional and inclusive. Not doing so brings divisiveness and isolation, prolonging PTSD symptoms, as you heard my experience saying. I would be hoping for us to be able to reduce consumerism of Pride and bring in radical policies that support and resource LGBTQ folks and celebrates us in our intersectionality, not in spite of it. There must be crucial awareness around denouncing pink-washing strategies, which means promoting what is pink-washing strategies? Pink-washing strategies is promoting LGBTQ rights as evidence of progressiveness and democracy in order to distract from violence against other countries, such as in the case of Israel, where it promotes itself as a safe haven for LGBTQ folks while systemically erasing the native Palestinians from existence using brutality and demolition of houses and the tactic of bullying. I saw someone holding a sign in a protest that said, "Not gay as in happy, but queer as in free Palestine." And being queer as a political stance, acknowledging intersectional oppression, helps us move towards intersectional liberation. And this acknowledgement of intersectional oppression should not be just exclusive on US land. And that's why I'm bringing Palestine, that's why I'm bringing our stories here. This is what would make Pride more complete for me. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
I would definitely vote for them.
Yes.
So my comments about what they said really are, we're often, I think it's sort of human nature to put people in boxes to know how to respond to them, how to interact with them, which I think in some ways is actually causing more problems because the labeling and the stereotyping, doesn't allow for somebody to really come to, to be who they are. And so when we talk about LGBTQ issues, we can't separate that from political issues, religious issues, physical issues, health issues. It has to be all taken into consideration, right? And emotional issues too. And so, and as I'm reflecting on what's sort of happening in this country, that while we've moved a few, I would say, steps ahead with recognizing the rights of LGBTQ people, a few months in this year, about 300 anti-LGBTQ laws has been passed, right? That mostly focus on trans kids, or mostly trans kids actually. And so as we're moving forward, we also need to think about that those rights can be taken away, and what can we do in our conversations to move this forward, that they are protected. Now, when we also talk about, sort of intersectional identities, that's really an unfortunate part because, again, as I said earlier, people try to label you. You're Filipino, you're trans, you're educated, have a doctorate degree. So on one end, on some areas, you're okay, but in other areas, you're not. And I feel like oftentimes that really puts us in a difficult position. So when I came out towards my latter years, and people were saying, oh, but you're kind of an okay kind of trans because you can speak English, you're educated, you sort of fit the perfect, whatever, trans person,
Image.
I guess. Whatever, right, professional. But if I maybe didn't look professional, wasn't as much educated, maybe I wouldn't have fit that and would be considered less than. So I feel like that's really a complex issue here that we deal with. And then when you come to this country, you still have to fit in, right? You really have to fit in navigating that multiple parts of who you are. And I just feel like, can you just imagine how it feels like every day when you have to sort of censor parts of yourself or say, oh, in this setting, I'm okay, but in that setting, I feel unsafe. So that, I feel, is really the conversation that needs to happen, is why can't we create a space where we can be our full selves, embracing all aspects of who we are politically, spiritually, sexually, gender identity, all of those places. And I feel like oftentimes it's put in boxes. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely it does. When it comes to achievements, and especially of immigrants, that part is always celebrated. But when it comes to I definitely want to invite you to come, all of you, for another session. We need to talk about these things. And especially with what happened today, we definitely need to be out there and try to have our voice and have the, the government to hear us and make some changes and have the conversation. So definitely we need to do that. One thing is that we are kind of running out of time. We have like 10 minutes, 2 more questions. Kholoud, I guess, included these questions in their responses, but you're here so we can continue with, for previous roundtable, we talked about the suicidal ideations. We want to continue that with maybe this panel as well, because we know the suicidal ideation among the LGBTQI is very high. It's very high. And if we can talk about a little bit about that, not only during the pandemic, of course, in general. So if you want to.
Well, the ideation is high, but also the attempts are high. I mean, we have to be very clear.
Yeah.
Now, LGBTQ people don't try to hurt themselves because of who they are. They are doing that because of how people have responded to them. I have to be very clear about that. Yeah. Now, so if your families don't accept you, if you're worried about your safety, if you are always asked to be somebody else, I mean, that affects your self-esteem. We see really disproportionately poor health outcomes, runaway, engage in sex work, all of those things to just try to survive. And so again, if you create spaces and places for these individuals, you know, where they can be who they are, you won't see all of these issues. What the problem is that people around us can't seem to accept it. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we need to create environments that people feel safe and accepted. And so I don't, while we talk about suicidal ideation and high suicide attempts, I also want to really be very clear about the other side of that story, is that LGBTQ people are the most resilient people in the world. Because oftentimes we only talk about the bad things, and yet in the history of this country and many countries, LGBTQ people have been strong activists and change agents and started revolutions. And so as much as we talk about the bad things, but they're also that they bring creativity and innovation to many of our places and spaces. And I also want to say, because I feel like that's part of the narrative that has to be talked about, so young people who are feeling depressed and hopeless feel like I can be that person. I can find role models because that's what we need. And if we only talk about the bad things and the unhopeful things, then it sort of perpetuates the stereotype that we can't thrive. And I really just want to say that. The other part, in spite of many, many bad things that sort of are happening, there was a research that came out in 2019 from the Trevor Project that says one accepting adult can save a young LGBTQ person's life. So I'm looking at the people in this room, that you all, as an accepting adult, wherever you are, or an individual, not just an adult, can save someone's life by being accepting. And that an accepting adult can decrease suicide attempt by 40%.
Wow.
And that is so powerful, that every one of us can save a life. And every one of us here can reduce someone's suicide attempt by 40%.
That's wonderful. Yeah, creating that space, that's safe space. I would like to, because you already covered the last section as well, I would like to open it, actually, we have like 2 or 3 minutes, open it to the floor to see if anyone has any comment or any question. No? Lisa, you want to add anything? Uh-huh.
The one thing that I would like to hope we do is we focus a lot on why kids want to die. And there's a lot of reasons, right? Jay talked about it. The world is a hard place for trans youth, for queer youth, for all of us. What I would like to see is also in those conversations, we need to be able to hear people's pain. That is true. And we need to start asking young people, what makes them want to live? What brings them joy? And we as adults need to start making sure that we can put more of that in their lives and more of that into the world. And that, to me, is a part of suicide prevention that we don't talk about enough. Is talking to kids about what they want to live for. Music is the thing that kept my daughter alive through the pandemic.
Music? Oh, yeah.
Music is what kept her alive.
Yes.
You know, we talk a lot about, getting help and going to professional
Mm-hmm.
In addition to hearing their pain, also try to draw from them the things that bring them joy and light and make them want to live, and try to fan that flame.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And through the arts and music also, we can also bring the pain and bring it out, show it to people. And people actually listen more when we do that through arts, bring it. That's a wonderful and very valid point, definitely. And I personally believe that to change the narrative in any way, any narrative, art and music and of course nature and all that will help to change that. Really appreciate your comment, Lisa. Yes, Rabia.
I just want to add something. I have a question. I just want to read a quote from Gandhi.
Yes.
So he said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win.
Yes, then you win. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for this wonderful discussion. I wish we could have more time. We do have a graduation that follows this panel discussion, and of course a wonderful entertainment by PYE at the end. So please stick around, and thank you so much, everyone. This was a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. No, yeah. Okay. Feel free to grab water. If you need to use the restroom, feel free to do so. Yeah. It's such an honor to be here and listen to our speakers and insight and sharing their knowledge. Myself, coming from a background of music psychotherapy, so I feel deeply and totally agree. And it's also carrying a mission of helping people in their mental health and also their lives, getting jobs and work, go to workforce. Everything is related. And that's why I feel deeply about our program and feel very excited for sharing this moment with you all about our graduates. They worked really hard for the past 1.5 years. So my name is Sophia Wang. I'm the program manager for Health Career Pathway. So Health Navigator, our program Health Navigator, I think we have a slide for it. Yeah, Health Navigator Fellowship. So it's one of our grant-funded joint program with community college and adult school. So it's based on IBAS model that we work with community college, provide core classes, occupational training classes, along with the support from adult schools, the English support, and DHTI coaches provide coaching. So we serve students who are English language learner. Most of them are immigrants, refugees, asyees. The programs we work with, our coaches work very closely with teachers and from both schools and provide coaching along the way, from the beginning, from the moment they sign up the program. We help them to enroll schools, navigate school system, apply for financial aid, and provide translation. Maybe sometimes we also provide transportation to school, because not everybody has a car, especially when we moved to the new country. And then when they start training, our coaches provide academic and career coaching, tutoring, psychosocial support, and referrals. Thanks for our wonderful other programs, CEDRA and AllyNetwork, that really provide a good back-end support for our students, psychosocial and social services support and referrals. And also, we help them plan their licensing, training, career path, and professional development. And once they graduate, we offer internship arrangement, job placement opportunities, and professional skill workshops. So we're gonna have another workshop, professional skill workshop in July. So a lot of people will be attending that to help them prep to get on real world work and job and have that solid professionalism and present themselves well in the workplace. So we have different courses, trainings, and group and individual coaching offered throughout the entire school year. So at the same time, because of our wonderful diverse group of staff, we're able to provide services such as translation, identified culture and financial barriers, do career assessment, and one-on-one career matching for all immigrant, refugee, and asylee that's not in our training programs. So individuals come to us, we provide individual training and all this service for them. So oftentimes when we talked about what we do with people, they always get surprised. Wow, you guys do so much. Yes, actually we do. Our coaches do a lot, and with passionate hearts to help people who are capable, but slowed it down on their journey to achieve their goals and dreams by immigrating to another country, and culture and language barrier, and lack of network resources. So I also want to thank you for all of our teachers and schools we partner with. Our teacher from Merritt College, Julie Shane, was going to be here, but her dog got sick. So we really missed you, Julie. And really thank you for all the teachers from community college and adult school. They hold high standard of their work. So that really prepare our student well to go into their work well prepared and make them feel comfortable and confident. And so, as that said, our students work really hard to that too, right? So a lot of our students, they are daughters, sons, mothers, fathers, and they work full-time job during the day or night. And then they go home or at work during work break, take classes, do their reading, and do their assignment. And sometimes they have to commute for a long way to do certain tests in adult schools or community college. So really, I really appreciate your hard work and your consistent and staying with the program along the way. So let's give a round of applause to all of our students and teachers. Really. So may I have the honor to have our executive director, Sifeng Huang, and our founder, DHTI founder, Alice Liebaker, to award our certification and flower to all of our students. I will call. So may I have all our graduates stand up. And yeah, and we have, let's welcome Kalista Shrestha. Congratulations. Yeah, let's do a picture. Congratulations. Yeah. And Mahima Baidai. We have Usha Lama. And we have Dili Powdell. Congrats. Let's welcome Rodolfo Jerez Ramirez. Let's welcome Speksha Adikari. So, thank you everybody. I really want to give another round of applause, your strongest applause for our graduates. Yeah. And they will be in their internship next month, and then they will be at their work soon. We're really excited. So, it's time for you guys to celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. You did a great job up here. So, graduates, you spent so much hard work to get the certificate, and just know that we're here to support you, to help you find job placement opportunities. And when you are out there in the healthcare field, providing services to those in need that reflect your background, that reflects your culture, your language, just, I know how much heart you will put out there, knowing their struggle, to help them, because this is what DHTI is about, is to help immigrants re-enter healthcare professions. Even if you don't have that healthcare background and wanting to get into healthcare, we want to help support you and provide that wraparound support, because we know all the challenges and barriers that Sophia mentioned that you face. And this is the bread and butter of DHTI, to really serve immigrants with challenging backgrounds, and that's what we want to continue to do for you. And with that said, I also wanted to thank our panelists Shirin, AllyNetwork staff as well, for this amazing, amazing, amazing wealth of, mental health resources that you provided. And for me, truly, Lisa and I, we talked about how do we measure impact, right? How do we know that what we did had an impact? For me, it's not about the fundraising or, the numbers of people that we came out. It's more about knowing that we're able to use this material, provide the resources that we need to save lives, to promote what's out there and really make mental health conversations a norm, because there's a lot of stigma behind having that conversation. And hopefully the tools that our panelists have given are tools that you can use to help those in need and to make the community a much safer place for all. And without further ado, I know you're all anxious to, get out of your seat, enjoy eating food, and you're also welcome to take pictures in front of the banner here. I wanted to give the floor back to Shirin to give any kind of closing remarks and introduce our entertainer.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you all. It's been a wonderful day. I'm really happy. And, after 2 years of pandemic, this is wonderful. I cannot believe it. So hopefully we will have more of this. I love going to conferences, symposiums, sessions on this and that. So we will have more. We only kind of touched the surface in regard to 2 groups and communities, but we have to expand it and talk more and discuss it. So the ending is the most wonderful ending that I can think of. PY is here, and of course I'm gonna read you her bio while she's getting ready. So PY, I went for an event in Oakland last month and with Ida and Hui, and we came across PY who was performing, and it was so mesmerizing. And I really appreciate that, when I approached you, you said that you're going to join us. So it's so wonderful to be so open to invitations. So PY's chilling vocals and hypnotic sound have been described as a spiritual nirvana. A captivating performer, she bends genres to seamlessly flow from jazz, reggae, or folk to pure African rhythms, moving listeners to physically feel her music, creating a trance-like rhythm that balances consciousness. PY wows audiences across the globe with her soulful voice and genre-fusing melodies. Fondly known as the girl with the African thumb piano, the Mibera, PY was born and raised in Zimbabwe, Africa. Her love of music is influenced by her multicultural Southern Africa and gospel exposure in early childhood. During and after college years in the US, PY trained as a jazz vocalist at the Jazz School of Berkeley. She has studied with world-renowned vocalists such as Vernon Bush, Ras Kennedy, Mai Cavallaro, and Frankie Kelly. PY has since been under the tutelage of maestro and the incomparable percussionist Yagba Onilu and Kanguro Butch Heine. PY collaborates regularly with Fantastic Negrio, playing percussion on his 2017 Grammy Award-winning album, Last Days of Oakland. Last Days of Oakland. This Oakland? That's wonderful. Let's hear it for PY. Woo-hoo. We can move the...
So feel free to walk around and listen to music and socialize, because this is the end, coming to an end of our program, and feel free to come up and take pictures here as well, okay?
Can I say something about this? We need to say something about this.
Thank you. Just trying to make sure that I can hear myself. Just because you don't know who I am, don't judge. Just because you don't know what my mother is, don't judge. Just because you don't know how I think, don't judge. Dun, 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 dun. Dun 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 Dun, 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 dun. Just because you don't know where my grandpa parlay, don't judge just because you don't know who I am. Don't judge. Thank you. My name is PYE, and I'm going to play this next song. It's traditional from Zimbabwe, and it's called Nemam Sasa, which means building for the future ahead, whatever the times are coming. And I love singing this song because kind of in light of the pandemic from 2-3 years ago, whenever it started, you know, I think it becomes more poignant. And I just want to say thank you for having me here. I also agreed upon meeting Shireen. Just learning about your work, like the work that you do is really important. Last year, I was blessed with the opportunity to take care of a suicidal aunt. We didn't have any resources. Had I known that resources like yours existed, I would have definitely come earlier. But she's doing a lot better. And I'm just grateful that I really agreed to come here because I wanted to end it. I thought about starting something, like an organization or a movement to help with people who are dealing with mental health issues. And there's a lot of people. And knowing that resources like yours are available, I really, really appreciate it. And so it's really, really important. Thank you for having me here. Yeah. Nemam sasa karinge suba kamoicha uya iwiwo. Wanaka nemam sasa karinge suba namoicha uya iwiwo. Vamwe vana venyu varamba kutera nakapina kare ndichivauta zvinoda vamwe vari kuramba. Vamwe vana venyu varamba kutera nakapina kare ndichivauta zvinoda vamwe vari kuramba. Zvanyanya pereka 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 mvura mukaranga iwewo. Iya 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 iya.
Vamwe vana venyu varamba kutera ndakapira kare ndichivaudza zvinoda vamwe vari kuramba. Vamwe vana venyu varamba kutera ndakapira kare ndichivaudza zvinoda vamwe vari kuramba. Zvanyanya ndiani wadaidza nawereka ndiani wadaidza ndiani wadaidza ndiani wadaidza baba ndiani wadaidza nawereka ndiani wadaidza ndiani wadaidza ndiani wadaidza baba. Iwe 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 okoya bereka 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 shisoma okoya okoya okoya. Thank you. This next song, it's called Nehondo or Nehanda. It actually talks about an ancient warrior from my home country, Zimbabwe. She was known to roam the country with a lion next to her. And she's become a sort of like a revered spirit medium, an ancestor of ours. And the spirit is known to live throughout the land. That's the spirit of the lion as well. So the lion's spirit is a very revered spirit in that it empowers us. It empowers all of us. And I'm doing this song specifically because part of the lyrics talk about how when we go inside our heads, especially when things are tough, especially the pandemic, with all this that's happening, we tend to be lost and we roam the land aimlessly. So this is a song that calls us back to be strong, calls us back to be within ourselves, and also in light of my personal experience with my aunt, it's that song of calling to come home. A lot of us are lost, and our spirits, our minds are just roaming, but there's that calling to go within. And when we search for home, when we help those who need that support to go home, as in whether it's going home to your home country, to go home within yourself, this is what the song is about. It is calling that powerful spirit to ground us to where we belong. Datungaira, Datungaira, Aiwa Mwari Baba, Mwari Waya Mutimua, Dojga Sedikita, Dojga Sedikita, Aiwa Datungaira, 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 Aiwa Mwari Baba, Mwari Waya Mutimua, Dojga Sedikita, Dojga Sedikita, Aiwan Datungaira, Aiwan Datungaira, 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 Datungaira. You can take this one. So my next song comes from a beautiful country in East Africa. It's called Malaika. I call it a classical African song. This is like the equivalent to, in the Western world, they call it Bach and Beethoven. This is my Bach Beethoven of Africa. It was made famous by a South African lady called Miriam Makeba when she was exiled during apartheid in South Africa. And I think it's a beautiful song. Malaika means my angel. Ooh, that's hot. Malaika, nakupenda malaika. nakupenda malaika, malaika, nakupenda malaika, nami nifanyeje kijana mwenzio, sinwana mali sina we, ningekuwa malaika, nasinwana mali sina we, ningekuwa malaika, nasinwana mali sina we, ningekuwa malaika. Thank you. I'm going to take you to to the Southern African part again, where I'm from. The song is called Vuli Lela, which means make way. It's just this song is actually typically saying the wordings, but it's just so wonderful. I just like to sing it. It's not really a wedding song, but it's just talking about people making way for other people who are trying to do what they're trying to do. And in this case, I chose the song for you because people need to make way for you guys to do the amazing work that you're doing out there for people who absolutely need it and for the communities that need the work that you're doing. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. And if you've ever, thank you. If you've ever heard the song before, if you know it, feel free to sing along. I just think it's a wonderful song. It's called Vulindlela again. Vulindlela, where mango bossy, and you know where little you shut the numbers. Vulindlela, on the morning you saw, Samanumut, on the morning you touching, banging gassy, Yamanamakati. Oh, jungle this time, my heart bigger. Who's and the 30? Who's them shot with? Yashadi sangam tanja, baby city. Yellow only sock, baby city. I'm going, Yashade Vulindlela, where mango bossing, Vulindlela. Pelumona, Vulindlela, where mango buzzing, Vulindlela, Ekana humona, Godwa, where mango bessen, Emunumona, Gomanu, Yanuam, Nantambizot, why yo mango bessen, Eamona, Eamunyana, Unantambizot, banging gassy, Yamanamakoti, Yanawan. Yeah, jungle this time, my heart bigger. Who's and the 30? Who's am shot with? Yes, I these are not plunge. Baby city, really warmly sock. Baby city, I'm yang, I shot the Vulindlela, where mango bossy, Vulindlela, yeah, moya. Vulindlela, where mango bossy, Vulindlela, yeah, moya. So I'm going to teach you a new word. It's Vulindlela. Vulindlela. So Vulindlela, where mango bossy, Vulindlela, yeah, moya. Vulindlela, where mango bossy, Vulindlela. Moya, Vulindlela, where mango bossy, Vulindlela, mona. Thank you. Thank you for participating. I don't know how we're doing in time. Are we okay? Time for one more? Are we done? Oh, we have 5 minutes. One more song? Okay. All right, thank you. I'll just do my last song. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been wonderful listening to all the speakers this afternoon. I was in the back just trying to motivate myself. But thank you so much for having such a beautiful day. So this last song is called the Click Song because all I'm doing is clicking. But the name of the song is called Ngwangwatwane. That's why it's called the Click Song, and it's in Xhosa. If you're familiar with Nelson Mandela, that was his tribe and that was their language. So, yeah. And it's a funny song because the song really, it's again, like most African songs, it's sung everywhere. This one also sung at weddings and just occasions like this. But it's really talking about a very small creature in the forest, the dung beetle, that cleans up the forest, that does all the work that nobody sees. And that's what the song celebrating those people who are doing the work that no one else sees. So. Hikha landlela ngikongotwane hikha landlela ngikongotwane hikha landlela wayangukongotwane hikha landlela ukwangukongotwane hikha landlela wayangukongotwane hikha landlela ngikongotwane selekubule kutapa wayangukongotwane selekubule kutapa ngikongotwane selekubule kutapa wayangukongotwane selekubule kutapa ngikongotwane hikha landlela wayangukongotwane hikha landlela ngikongotwane selekubule kutapa wayangukongotwane selekubule kutapa ngikongotwane selekubule kutapa wayangukongotwane selekubule kutapa ngikongotwane. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Piwawi. Can we give Piwawi a round of applause, please? And thank you so much to our graduates. We want to congratulate you again. So another round of applause to you all as well. Feel free to grab more food, take some home, and we hope to continue serving you and seeing you. And I know that in our next coaching sessions and job placement opportunities, I'll also see you again. So keep in touch. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out.